Hi children, welcome back to our fourth class of history. In the last class, we were talking about the circumstances that led to French Revolution. French Revolution. We have seen the social background of France, the division of society into three estates. Then we were discussing about the events that led to the outbreak of French Revolution. And we also started to discuss about the influence of the Enlightenment thinkers for French Revolution. People were suffering. People, in all sense, they were subject to the cruel rule of the emperor. So the social condition was very ripe to start a revolution. But that was not enough. Unlike any other part of the world, the people in France were very much influenced by the Enlightenment thinkers that we had seen. First of which was John Locke. John Locke. There are many Enlightenment thinkers. We are not discussing all of them here, but three prominent philosophers of Enlightenment period. Only these three people we are discussing now. Number one is John Locke, and remember he was a British thinker. He was a British philosopher who lived in the 17th century. In the beginning of the 17th century. His notable work, we have to remember here, is two treatises of government. And here, in this book, he is refuting the divine power of an emperor and the absolute power, the divinity of an emperor. Until this period, people believe that the power of an emperor or a king is given by God. It was divine. So we cannot question the authority of a king. That was the general belief that was existing during this period. But in his famous work, Two Treatises of Government, John Locke refuted the divinity of an emperor and the absolute power of the emperor. The emperor, since his power is divine, it was given by God, it is absolute. He doesn't have to share his power with anyone. No one can question his authority. He doesn't have to answer to any earthly bodies. There is no any constitution, there is no any parliament, there is no one to question his authority. Whatever the emperor decides is the rule. It was like that during this period. And John Locke is questioning this concept. And he outrightly denied or questioned the authority of a king as God's representative on the earth. So remember the philosopher John Locke and his famous work, the Two Treatises of Government. Then we have to remember another person, Rousseau, Jean Rousseau. He was a French philosopher. John Locke was British and Rousseau was French. Here, he introduced a new concept, that is social contract. Contract means agreement. Here, according to his theory, a government is functioning basing on a social contract between the people. There is an unwritten agreement. Contract means agreement. There is an unwritten agreement between people and their representative. The representative here means the ruling class. It may be a king, it may be a democratic system, or it may be a despot, whoever may be. The government has to listen to the people. And the government is simply here to fulfill the responsibility of taking care of the people. That is the responsibility of the government, whoever may be. So, and that also, the government is existing because of a contract. The contract is that people have unlimited freedom. People are liberal. They don't have any restriction upon them. And people are willingly surrendering some of their rights to the government. And in return, government gives them security. Government gives them the basic necessities of livelihood. The government gives in return basic education. So that is how there is an agreement between government and the people. So long as the government is fulfilling these conditions, it can remain in power. Once government fails to fulfill their responsibility, they don't have any legal authority to continue to rule the people. That is the theory of social contract. Remember, these theories are coming out during a period when people are thinking that the king is the absolute or the absolute authority. There is no the king doesn't have to answer to anyone. He is not, his deeds are not accountable. No one can question his authority. These ideas are coming out during this period. Then another important thinker, another important philosopher of the Enlightenment period we have to remember is that Montesquieu. Here he is famous for he wrote a book that is The Spirit of the Law. What was the basic concepts of the spirit of the law? Now we are familiar with the functioning of our governments. How a government is functioning, we know. In politics, you study. A government machinery is very clearly divided into 3 sections. What are they? Legislature, executive, and judiciary. And these 3 entities are very clearly defined in every country. Now all modern governments are functioning based on the proper division of responsibilities. We know what is the responsibility of a legislature, we know the responsibility of an executive, and we know the responsibility of a judiciary. And one of these will not interfere in another one. The legislature will not interfere in the functions of executive or judiciary, and executive will not interfere in the function of legislature and judiciary, and judiciary will not interfere in the function of legislature and the executive. So it is very clearly defined 3 entities of the government. And this concept was introduced by Montesquieu. And before French people accepted or French people began to learn about these ideas, a government was in existence. That is the United States of America. We know before French Revolution, United States became, or 13 European English colonies became independent, and George Washington became the first president of USA. That's what we know. And when they established a democratic government in America, it was for the first time in the world that a government was introduced based on the division of responsibilities. So, according to the concept put forward by Montesquieu, the government was formed in America. So, people learn it is possible. We can establish a government like that. Until then, what was the condition? When the king was the supreme power, there was no division between the government machinery. There was no a particular being called legislature. There is no a particular being called executive. It is all the king. It is all the king's will. Whatever he is telling is the rule. So there was no proper division. But when a government was established in America, when 13 colonies became independent, they started the government machinery with the system. So people widely talked about the work of these people. Remember, there was no communication, proper communication at that time. We have also communication now. There was no proper newspaper. But how people were getting to know about the writings of these people? There are some people who learned and read the books, and they were delivering the message of these people to common people in coffee shops, in saloon. Saloon means any location where people get together for any function. So in all these places, people were discussing about the writings of these philosophical ideas of these writers. So people realized the kind of government that is continuing now, that has to go. We need something different. So people began to feel. So in all this sense, the social background, the people are mentally getting ready for a revolution. Now there are two things. One is that the people are suffering. People are suffering like anything. This is an undescribable suffering people are undergoing. So that is quite enough for revolution, but that is not enough. The period is such a period that although they are suffering like anything, their thinking is not that much high. But that low thinking has been removed, and their ideas are developed by the philosophical works of the Enlightenment thinkers. Now their ideas are ignited. They are getting new ideas. Now after getting the new ideas, the society is completely ripe for revolution. Now in the next class we will see the outbreak of revolution. Thank you.